Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about Andor episode 12. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about the season finale of Andor, which
Yes.
is a shame that we're losing the series for a while.
Yeah.
But it has been really good viewing. So this last episode is called Rix Road,
Hmm.
and that refers to a particular street on Ferrix where, when they have a funeral procession, they march down there.
Hmm.
And obviously, we'd seen at the end of the last episode that Andor had found out that his mother had died, and that they were all trying to set up a trap for
Yep.
Andor. And this whole episode is kind of centered around this one kind of big scene, isn't it? You know, yes, you
Yeah.
see a little bit at night beforehand where Dedra's come down to the planet and she's brought some troopers with her, and she's now assembling her imperial
Task
officers and
force. Yeah.
soldiers. Yeah,
Hmm.
they're preparing, aren't they, for trying to trap him? Although it's quite a visual trap, isn't it? Really,
Mm.
they're not
Mm.
really hiding, or they're not really sort of.
No.
That's how it is on Ferrix now, isn't it?
And I think that, presented with the situation, it was always going to be a certain chaos to it, wasn't there?
Hmm.
Because they're bringing all the aspects together.
Yes,
Everybody's kind of meeting one spot.
yes.
And I think I approached this episode with a certain amount of trepidation
Okay.
because it's been so good the last
Yeah,
few episodes.
yeah.
I was thinking to myself, how can they work this?
Yes, I
And
was thinking that too. How are they going to
yeah.
end this series?
Mm,
Because
mm.
there's a lot, isn't there, that's all coming together at once, and can they make that work? And I thought they did it really well. I thought it was really well put together.
Yeah, I did as well. I thought it was good. There
Yeah,
were the one or two things about it which I was a little bit disappointed with.
right.
Turning a magnifying glass at something that's really, really detailed and
Yes,
beautiful.
yes,
Cassian's role in the sequence of events
yeah,
was a bit underplayed.
right.
I just He just sort of skirted around the outskirts of what was going on, and understandably, he couldn't sort of show himself. They'd all jump on him.
Yes,
But what I thought could have happened, or they could have used a device like this, they could have had him interrupted by more people as he tried to do what he was doing.
yeah.
I just felt that he all too easily found passages and snuck round. And I
Yes,
just
I
felt that,
agree with you. I think it
yeah,
was it was all a bit because they pretty much emptied the whole place, didn't they? And I think
yeah,
if they had thought about it, they might have thought, well, Bix is another potential trap, that he might want to rescue her because they were friends. But
yeah, which seems like a natural assumption. You
it
thought
does, doesn't it? But then
Dedra would
again, they
have dealt
might have
with it.
thought maybe they weren't that particularly close, and that she just knew some, But I suppose she would have told them, that she'd known him a long time.
Yeah,
So yes, I know what you mean. I mean, he only
yeah,
had to kill one or two people, didn't he? When he got her
yeah.
out,
I
and
didn't feel any trepidation for him,
right,
unfortunately, which was a
okay,
shame. Because it's
mhm.
a great episode. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm sort of
yeah,
picking at hairs, but
yeah,
I just felt like there was just an opportunity for him to sort of, you know, almost appear
yeah,
as a figurehead to a certain extent
hmm,
for this movement, but he
yeah.
still sort of lurks in the shadows, and his role isn't exactly clear from the events in this episode.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I think back to Rogue One, he
Yeah.
although he was a main character, wasn't he?
Mm.
He wasn't like one of the leaders. He sort of seemed like the person that you send off on the mission to do the dirty work, that
Yeah.
he was quite a resourceful guy. He could get into places and do things, but
Yeah.
he's not like a Mon Mothma or a Luthen sort of character. He's not the person coming up with the whole schemes and making that all work in my
No.
mind.
He's good in
You
the
know,
moment. He's good
he's good.
survival
He
wise.
is
If he
exactly.
spots a situation where he can get out and
Yes.
escape, he will
Yeah.
try and do it.
Exactly.
He's and I just feel like with this, he was just avoiding. Maybe that is part of his character. Maybe
Yeah.
he does avoid. But
He's
I
a
think,
survivor, isn't he? So he would have
yeah,
tried to avoid,
yeah,
any
yeah. I mean, he's
interactions.
changing. So we'll,
But
we'll
I think you're right. There could have been more of a threat for him when he was
yeah,
trying to get into the base and then
yeah,
trying to save Biggs. I think you're right. I think there could have been a bit more on that. I think there was one bit where they were coming at near the front of the door and he jumps down, doesn't he? Shoots one of the black death. I don't know what they call them.
yeah,
Trooper. But yeah, other than that, there wasn't. He managed to just get round, didn't he, and take her out of a cell.
yeah.
So
And meanwhile, while this is happening, they're all coming together in the street, aren't they?
yes.
And I think it was funny. I had kind of almost like an epiphany at the moment when they Maarva's hologram is projected, because they've got a
Yes.
funeral. There's not really much of a story to this. They're just sort of all coming together, aren't they?
No,
Really.
no.
And
Well, you see all the main characters, don't you? So Cyril
yeah,
and the sergeant have got together, and they come down, and
yeah,
they're
all
trying
the
to sort of
ingredients are
look at
there.
that.
Yeah,
Dedra's there, isn't she? She's a Luthen's turned up and joined up with Vel, and Vel and
yeah,
Cinta as well is there,
yeah,
and
yeah,
all the troops are there. Yeah, there's
yeah,
loads of things all congregating around this
yeah,
funeral, isn't there? Really,
yeah, yeah.
and I
And
did think they put it together so well.
yeah, I
It
thought
was
it looked
gripping.
fantastic.
All the, like we've been saying, the fact that they're using proper sets, they've done this with actors rather than a load of CGI. It
Yeah,
really feels so much more authentic, doesn't it? All the attention
yeah.
and detail they put into that group of people that were walking down as a procession, with the instruments and all the
Yeah,
sort
they
of
were
bits
used
and
very
pieces like
effectively.
that.
The music was used very effectively
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
particular sequence. I love that the
yeah,
change of tempo when
yeah.
they step up. There's a
That's right.
somber funeral march, and then they up the tempo and they kind of move more quickly towards the
Yes.
troopers
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
kind of barricading the road.
yeah,
And yeah, no, I just thought, because as this all comes to a head,
yeah.
they the little droid projects, isn't
He does. B2, is it B2? Yeah.
Maarva Andor into the air, and she talks
Yeah.
to everybody. But
Yeah.
in that moment,
Yeah.
what I kind of thought, because it's a bit deceptive, the whole title of the show is called
Yes.
Andor,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we think Cassian Andor. But
Yeah.
in that moment,
Yeah.
I kind of thought, oh, actually, this is a show about Maarva Andor to a certain extent
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And I thought it was all very easy to sort of shift it onto Cassian. But
Yes.
Fiona Shaw as Maarva Andor is amazing.
Yes.
And you really feel for her. You really feel
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
desperation
Yeah.
that she's then projects across this thing. And it harks back to that speech she gave Cassian in their
Mm.
house.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that energy and that power that she
Mm.
kind of imbues in
Yes.
Andor to a certain extent, and
Mm-hmm.
then to this crowd that are
Yeah,
watching.
it is a really good moment, isn't it? It's a really
Yeah,
special moment,
yeah,
and just the whole actual speech itself is really nicely written, isn't it? The way
yeah,
she's talking about, metaphors of them all being asleep, and letting this evil, this darkness come in and
yeah,
establish itself. They're all just as much to blame, that they haven't stood up to it and done something about it.
yeah.
And it was good, wasn't it? It was a real sort of
Very
rallying cry.
stirring.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Fiona Shaw
absolutely.
at her best, which is
Mm,
awesome to see.
mm. Yeah, it
And
was.
it's interesting because what this posed was, how was the Empire going to deal with this open kind of rebellion in the
Yeah,
high street?
yeah, yeah.
And initially there's a certain the speeches, it's all sort of somber, and they let them get away with a certain amount of talk, but
They
then
do.
it ramps up.
Yes.
But you've got the troopers in the street, and there's
Mm,
obviously going to be their battle breaks out, doesn't it?
mm, mm,
And
mm,
it kind of spreads out. But within that whole thing,
mm.
I thought it was a shame that Dedra wasn't utilized more effectively.
Yes,
A
yes.
bit like Andor, a bit
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Cassian in a way. She
yeah.
kind of wanders around kind of being useless, which was a real shame.
Yeah, she's kind of searching, isn't she? She's searching for him through the streets, which I agree with you. I think
it's a bit of a shame.
She's been kind of painted as a really intelligent and thinking through the plans and the plots, and I did think a little bit of that, like we were saying earlier, the fact that they kind of made it so obvious that this was a trap for him. He would have just, like I say, wouldn't have come close, would he? So that's why I suppose Andor didn't. But it was too obvious that there was a big trap. They should have had less of an obvious, power and let the funeral happen, and then swoop in somehow and capture the people.
It felt like it was slightly sort of mishandled, that whole concept.
It does. Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't it? And exactly. I have to say, I had a look into this, and for the last 2 episodes, we've had a different director.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So we've had Benjamin Caron. I don't know whether that's exactly how you say his name. Yeah. He's done the last 2 episodes, taking over from Toby Haynes, who did the 3 episodes before that one.
Yeah.
Now they obviously one director can't direct all of these episodes because they film different bits. They're different locations, and what it struck me, unfortunately, with these last 2 episodes was that it wasn't. There were things about these 2 episodes which felt a bit non-committal.
Right.
I didn't quite feel like the tension was there as much.
Well, I don't know. I disagree with you there, because I was sitting watching this absolutely kind of gripped to see how it was going to end and what it was building up to. And then when we had the speech from Maarva, I was like, and it kicked off. Then I was like, that was brilliant. I really
I don't know whether tension's the right word. I disagree with you. I didn't feel the tension because we saw the kid making the bomb. Yes. We saw the slow parade. We saw everybody was there beforehand. No one sort of appeared out of surprise. I didn't feel any trepidation for Andor. I thought it looked fabulous, and I thought it was nice to see everybody come together. I just felt like it wasn't the 9; it was more of an 8 than last time. I just felt that it didn't quite deliver. Now that's not to say it wasn't good. I've just got high expectations.
Yeah, my anticipation was higher and keeping me gripped to it to see how they were going to try and deal with these things. I did think they did underutilize Luthen as well. He definitely had a very, very brief, but then again, you've got 4 or 5 elements all trying to come together in one,
which could have been hugely dynamic and powerful.
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been. I'm not disappointed with it.
It would have been great
with it. I thought it was good, great.
At the end, Cassian. I mean, we're jumping. I'm jumping around. Yeah. Sorry about that. But at the end, Cassian hooks up with Luthen. But I felt like he could have fought Vel, or there could have been some kind of interaction there. Yes. How did he know where the ship was?
He'd been. I think that was the spot that he.
Is that the same spot? I think we can assume that. It looked like it would have been good if he'd had a fight with Vel.
Yeah,
and he's like convinces her, like, oh, I am on your side now. Yes, and she's like, she's taken over by him.
Yeah,
and she says
it was just lacking that sort of bit, wasn't it?
You need to speak to him, and then that could have that could have tumbled it on. I think that it struck me like there were bits taken out, like it was edited or it was cut back a bit or something like that. I just felt like suddenly he's there. And he didn't have him as much action. I just thought, what's going on? And I know I sound really picky, and I'm sorry.
No, but, it's not.
I like to really focus down on some of these things. This really deserves a lot of attention.
I think I definitely had sort of clocked onto the whole that Andor hadn't really sort of, like you say, got interrupted or got some sort of, slightly more threatening situation. I think you're right there. I think that would have been a really good bit to add. Like I say, if Vel had come across him, and because she's been looking in 2 minds about things, hasn't she? Her character, she's struggling a bit with what's going on and how things are panning out, and so I think you're right. I think that could have been a really good scene, couldn't it? If him and her had sort of come across each other, had a bit of a tussle, and then they had to talk it out, that could have worked really well, couldn't it?
Because they've got history, those two.
Yes, exactly.
So
she might not want to kill it, even though she was there to kill him. She might have wanted to kill him because,
and she could have held a knife to his throat, and he could have said something very dramatic, like I started this rebellion or something like that. There could be some kind of, he could have been like suddenly taking responsibility, and she could have looked at him and just let him go or something. It would have been fascinating.
Yeah,
but we had Cinta as well.
Yes,
having a kind of, she's had a sort of almost been like a ghost through this series, hasn't she?
She is
appearing in different little bits.
Yes,
but she seemed to have a target, didn't she? The attendant Hart, who she sort of tracks and follows.
Yes,
towards the end. Was it Corv? No, I
wasn't sure what the character's name was, but he was the one that was keeping an eye on everything, wasn't it? But I thought that was quite,
to kill him. Had she been given orders to track that particular guy down?
No, I don't think so. But I think from a perspective of, if you've got an enemy agent, in the mix, you would want to take that person out somehow, so that they didn't suddenly do something, or get Luthen or get Vel,
he knew too much.
That guy.
But I think to a certain extent that they could have worked that a bit more. There was a lot of marching. I thought that they could have had a little tussle, little fight.
Yeah. No, I to be honest, I quite liked the way she dealt with that. It was just quick and easy. And it was a bit of a surprise to the guy. And I think that, to me, kind of summed her character up, in the respect of, she just acts, she just does it. She's not really too phased about killing people. She's not phased about doing something a bit dangerous. She's there for the cause, and is one of the ones that will just go straight for the throat. So I was kind of, that didn't bother me at all. I think like we're saying there, those three main characters from that, Vel, Andor, Lucen, and they all had slightly, they could have done with a little bit more of a tussle somewhere, couldn't they? Dedra, like you say, could have been a bit smarter about things and how she tracked him down.
I thought Brasso was good. He was good. He was excellent in this.
Yes.
And bloody hell, you get a real sense he's a massive guy.
He is a big guy.
And he kind of batters a few of the troops, doesn't he?
Exactly.
But he takes on a certain responsibility. Now, I think what he does is he steps in for Maarva to a certain extent, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of there leading her emotions forward.
Exactly.
He says, "I'll take care of Maarva," and he does. He looks
when she died, he very much cleared out her place. He looks after the droid, didn't he? That was a very emotional sort of bit there that they've tried to, and yes, exactly that. He's kind of taken up a slightly more emotional sort of side of it, isn't he? The sort of heart of what's going on,
And I think sometimes when you see a big guy like that taking on those heartfelt roles, it really works well.
It does, yeah. He was good.
Yeah,
and it'd be nice if he's in it a bit more in the next series.
Absolutely.
I think he was a good character, and he was loyal, wasn't he, as well to Andor. Always had his back. So I think that was good. Yeah,
there's a moment where they hug, and you definitely feel him trying to mourn in that moment with Cassian, and allow Cassian to be more emotional, because he needs prompts to be emotional.
Yeah.
So he does.
What, Cassian or the actor?
Both. He's perfectly cast. And then they work to that strength, don't they?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, this one, that we don't really get any resolution for Clea, do we? Who had kind of risen sort of to almost sort of take over from Luthen, and then now Luthen is kind of once again in charge.
Yes. Yeah,
that was interesting.
That was an interesting one, wasn't it? The last we saw of her, she was trying to contact him when he was flying away from Sol Guerrera, and that's the last we saw of her, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, I guess there's so much stuff in there, you can't fit everything in. And we'll see her in the next series. There's only one more series as well, so it's
this
meant
is
to be
the thing.
two.
It feels like we're
series.
complaining about something that's really good,
Yeah, we're not.
We're being really picky.
We're not.
We don't. We mean this has been a success, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And looking forward to the next series.
I think when something presents itself so great,
yeah,
running into sort of episode 10 of 12,
yeah,
you're like, right, you start to hold everything to account to a certain extent. You look at things in more detail, and you kind of expect more and you want more.
Yes.
And whether that's the right state of mind to be in, who knows? I mean, that's personally how I look at it. And I think by doing that, I'm getting much more satisfaction. I'm able to sort of really really go into the detail and sort of immerse myself in the environment. And it's nice to be able to do that. I mean, whereas if you look at something like She-Hulk, when we were looking at that, we could only skim across the surface because it was too depressing to go any deeper. Couldn't look at it. We couldn't look at it in any sort of depth.
Everything was just so obviously bad, wasn't it? It was kind of like we didn't know what to say sometimes, But I think the thing you can take from this series is they've had a different approach with it than they have with the other sort of Star Wars, some of the other Star Wars stuff. And for me, that's really worked. And I'm hoping that the next series will follow the same sort of approach, more realistic, more outdoor, filming, location, sweeping, and lots more sets and lots more of the actual real tangible people, there's been some amazing sort of, there's been some great bits where people have given great speeches, haven't they? And like Luthen, when he's speaking to the agent that's undercover, that whole bit there on the bridge, that was fantastic. The bit in this one with Maarva, that was a great speech,
it was a great
sort of good thing to take out of this. So
we can look. They've got two excellent writers on this.
Yes,
Tony Gilroy. Is the main guy.
Yes.
And I mean, he's really kind of led the way.
Done a great job of it. It's been great.
Fabulous. So really very impressive. If they get him for the next one, I think, you're guaranteed. And as long as you get Toby Haynes on a few of those episodes, I think we're going to get some really, really good. It's a good dynamic team. They're already shooting the next one. So
which is great news.
Yeah. It is great. So it's gonna be another year or two before we see it because it's of such high quality.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know it's going to be there. I'm pleased it's only going to be 2 series because I think you can stretch these things too far, and this has got a purpose. It's got an arc, and I don't think we want to take that any further.
It's just going to lead up to the Rogue One, isn't it? And understand where we get to that point. And I think you're right. You don't want to go too much with this. You want to leave people wanting more and not quite, deliver, just keep that little, So but I like I say, really enjoyed it. I mean, we saw a little bit of Mon Mothma in this one, didn't we?
We did.
She's trying. Yes. I think she's trying to do something very subtle here or clever here, isn't she?
Yeah.
You see her being chauffeur driven down to some sort of gambling place or some sort of party or something, and she picks up her husband, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And basically says, "Oh, what, you're gambling again," just so that the agent can hear this, And it's not clear if I think the husband doesn't know, he's not aware that she's going to do this to him,
Yeah, and he's going to take the fall, isn't he?
yeah, I know, which is quite sort of like,
Well, I tell you what I was thinking as well. She's had to make a decision.
Yeah,
her husband or her daughter.
Yeah,
I think that is. I think this is.
Although at the end, that she's pretty much she's getting her daughter married off like she was.
Yeah, it's true.
Although I think the daughter's been more receptive to it, hasn't she? She's
certainly
looking at the traditional side of their culture. So I think she's a bit more receptive to it, isn't she?
Yeah.
But again, it's going to be good to see how that sort of works out, isn't it? Whether they're going to get the husband in trouble, and that's going to give her difficulty, or how does she get actually really involved in the rebellion?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you've got strange if money's disappearing from your account and you can't explain it. What better way to do that than to say your husband is gambling it away and taking the money?
I know.
She's
it's a
putting
good
a little
idea.
bit of doubt. It's a great little bit of writing. I love it. It's a great idea.
And if anything, it puts it also, because we saw the chauffeur guy go to the ISB and tell them, so it's now sent them off on another offshoot of a possibility, and keeping maybe the thought of her funding the rebels, as a really good, good little touch. That I thought that was quite, and it was a bit off the cuff, wasn't it, as well?
It was suddenly that's like that,
unexpected, and you were like, I was like, oh wow, she's really going for it, isn't she? She's...
it took a minute to sort of figure out. Oh, hang on a minute, hang on.
I see.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that was.
But talking about the end,
yes,
you did watch the post-credit scene, didn't you?
Oh, sugar lumps. Was there a post-credit scene?
Oh yes, there was.
Oh, you're fucking joking.
No. Basically,
I didn't even watch it.
Suddenly you see like a robot hand. Suddenly you see a robot hand working on putting something together, and it slowly pans out, and you realize you're in space, and you suddenly see one of those cogs that they were making in the prison. And it's been slotted into place, and it pans out a little bit further, and you can see you on like a panel. Yeah, and then another panel, and then
I didn't. Oh, how stupid of me not to watch
circular.
That.
Well, there haven't been any, have there? So you wouldn't necessarily have thought to.
Yeah,
and it pans out, and then you see the Death Star, and it's kind of got like this, all these parts projected out from it, as if a construction manual,
like a schematic,
and like a schematic, and you can see what all those bits were for and why they need so many, and they're all but slotted.
Well, we said, didn't we?
We did wonder.
We did wonder what those bits, what they were making, and that it was probably going to be going to. Yeah,
it's a nice, cool, isn't it? It's a nice shadow to cast over the next season. The Death Star is on its way. And how much are they going to find out about that? And
yes,
it's kind of looming in the background, an ominous feel to the end.
Wow.
Yeah,
excellent. Although I don't feel they need to do too much on that. I think they need to.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they will.
And all that sort of thing separate. And that this is a story about them getting to the being rebels, and
I think so.
Taking that step forward. Yeah. So,
well, they've got to. The plans are going to be exposed, aren't they? So we'll see how much of that is involved with the writing for the next one. So it'll be interesting.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us today. We've really enjoyed that series, and we may do an overall series review. It's always nice to have a few days to think it through, and then have a good chat about it. But love the series. It's been brilliant. I know we've had a few critical things today, but they are minor things on such a great series.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we hope you've enjoyed it too. Give us any comments or any likes. That'd be great, and we'd also like more subscribers. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon.